thing is, from a recruiter's perspective, because we see so many CVs, there was a period in time when all the CVs looked the same, and you've got to be careful of that. So that's the thing about a CV writer. Are they using the same template and sending it out, selling the product to individual people? Those people are then applying for the same jobs, and you've got 10 CVs that all look the same.
Yeah.
So I think, they're buying the person. I think you've got to keep the individualism.
Hey everyone, it's Hamza. Welcome to this episode of the Modern Man podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of inviting Peter Foresaw, a true veteran of the recruitment industry and founder of Maxwell Stevens, who are a leading UK agency specializing in facility management. Now, Peter has over 2 decades of experience and an unparalleled understanding of the job markets, the skills employers seek, and the strategies that help individuals find those fulfilling roles. But beyond all of his expertise, Peter is also a passionate advocate for creating a more inclusive and celebratory recruitment experience. I'm so excited to welcome Peter. Welcome to the show, Peter. How are you?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and what an opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Not everyone sees it as an opportunity, but yay, it's good to have you. So, Peter, tell me your story.
So I grew up in a part of the world called Harrogate in Yorkshire. I was very lucky. Went to a decent school, still in contact with a lot of friends and family around that part of the world. My father was a dentist who worked for himself. My mother was in the hospitality trade, and over a period of time we ended up doing up pubs and restaurants. So the reason I tell you all of that is I learned a tremendous amount about how to deal with people, the business world. It was a great upbringing to get to where we've got to today.
Yeah.
Did quite a few different jobs when I was younger, so I've done everything from selling high-end shoes, so I know a lot about shoes, to being a bin man, believe it or not, in a summer holiday. Finished school, went to university up in Newcastle. I knew I wanted to do business.
Okay.
I didn't really know, recruitment wasn't a big thing at that period. Anyway, my mum at the time had set up a business importing handbags from Italy, actually.
Oh, wow.
And one of her clients was the HR director for what was called at the time B-Sky B. Anyway, it turns out her son was the managing director for a massive global recruitment company, off the back of which I managed to get a placement with them whilst at university. I then, after finishing university, went to London, sat down on day one, and they turned around to me and said, right, you're going to be recruiting this thing called facilities management. And that was June 2000. So, yeah. It seems a long time ago, but it's, as you rightly described, every year's gone extremely quick. And so 4 years with that firm. I then had a year as a director for a different firm, and then sat at Maxwell Stevens in June again, 2006. So 18 years on, we've dealt with 450 different clients. And business is brisk, so it's positive.
So you've been essentially in the recruitment industry now for probably about 24 to 25 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How has the industry changed in the time that you've been in?
I remember when I first started, we used to fax CVs to clients, believe it or not. I'm not joking.
Wow.
We used to have to stay till, we'd sent the shortlist and literally stand by the fax machine, put one piece of paper in. So if you're sending 6 or 7 CVs to clients, on average 3 pages each, let's say, you'd have to stand there and watch it 18 pieces of paper.
Wow.
Go through a fax machine to now. I mean, we all know what technology's like. It's pretty instantaneous. Probably because it's fresh in my mind, and I don't want to come across as negative, but I think the COVID period changed a lot of things. Particularly people's expectations.
Yes,
and that's
definitely.
It's good and it's bad. But from an employer's perspective, they probably have to be more reasonable. Obviously, there's the whole working from home piece.
Yeah.
You probably describe me in certain respects as a bit of a traditionalist, bit of perhaps old-fashioned, just because I'm that age group. And when I was growing up, it wasn't possible. But now I mean, the world's changed, hasn't it? And I think if you can do a job and you can prove results, then clearly people need to be able to work from home.
Yeah.
I think packages and bonuses and overall compensation's probably got more competitive, particularly to land, the high-end, top-end candidates. The good people are always going to be good people, and the firms compete to attract that talent. So I think it's both financial, but it's also, going back to my previous point about the flexibility, let's say, offering them a life, an attractive life.
Yeah. So I mean, we've touched on it a little bit, talking about how things have changed, technology has advanced. So with the world being so engulfed by AI right now, what is the future of the recruitment agency in this world extremely dominated by online job boards and AI-powered tools?
I think AI is so important, it can't be ignored. I think technology as a whole can't be ignored. However, you still need the human element. I can tell within 2 minutes whether someone's suitable for a job when I meet them. And partly experience and partly born with that talent. I think not everyone can do recruitment, if I'm honest with you. And I've been through it myself in terms of recruiting people to work for us, and some people just don't get it. Part of it, I think you're born with it. Obviously the rest is trained, but what did they say? It's over 50% of communication is non-verbal. Yeah. So I don't see how AI can come and interfere with that. You still need someone like me meeting that person, preferably in person. We've all gone back to in-person interviews now, believe it or not, particularly at the senior end. And so I think, to answer your question, the solution is a recruiter with AI. I think if a recruiter ignores AI, the recruiter with the AI is going to win. So I think it's both. I don't think it will. I don't think it will replace the person.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. So you have a lot of people who are a little bit concerned about the role AI plays in recruitment. And I like that you're touching on the fact that a recruiter who uses AI power tools is more equipped than someone who doesn't, because we know at this point AI is here to stay. So it's how can you use that to your benefit, right?
It does some unbelievable things. I mean, even LinkedIn, for example, as a product, has now introduced AI through the back screen, so you can message people and not even have to write it yourself. Obviously, you can go in and edit it. So the AI, to me, the ChatGPT of the world, is to use products like that, but then go in and do the human element.
The human
well.
touch, yes.
So you're not completely ignoring, it's the time-saving thing. And I think we'd be naive and missing a trick if we ignored it.
Yeah. So staying on the theme of AI for a second, right? We hear a lot about AI being used to screen CVs. What are your thoughts on this trend, and how can job seekers ensure that their CVs still stand out in an algorithm-driven world?
I'll just go off point for a second just to give you an idea. I employed this administrator on a year's contract. He went off to, it was always going to be a year, we left happy. He went off to university, and instead of actually doing the assignments himself, he used AI to answer all of the questions. It got to the end of the year test. He had zero knowledge. Obviously, massive problem. And I think bringing that back to the situation of people using AI, we just have to be careful. Obviously, use it, but don't lose touch of yourself. I'm not a big fan of CV writers, for example. I think you could always use a CV writer, but then go back and put your twist on it. Make sure it's still valid. Make sure there's nothing in the document that isn't true, because ultimately, dealing with an experienced recruiter, you're going to get caught out. You need to know what you do, you need to know your CV, it all needs to be correct. I think, again, use the AI to save a bit of time. From a recruiter's perspective, because we see so many CVs, there was a period in time when all the CVs looked the same, and you've got to be careful of that. So that's the thing about a CV writer. Are they using the same template and sending it out, selling the product to individual people? Those people are then applying for the same jobs, and you've got 10 CVs that all look the same. So I think, they're buying the person. I think you've got to keep the individualism.
And I know you touched on it a little bit. I'm saying that you're not a huge fan of CV writers, but you see a lot of these ads, especially when you start job searching or looking for a new job, and you see a lot of CV coaches and writers. So is it worth investing in a coach or a professional resume writer? And what are the potential benefits and drawbacks? I mean, you touched on one being that you could run into a situation where your CV looks the same as a lot of other people. But are there any other drawbacks or any other benefits to having a CV coach or a professional resume writer?
I think it's a waste of time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Personally, it's my personal view. Sorry, all you CV writers out there, but...
I mean, you said what you said.
Yeah, put it out there now.
Yeah.
Please, don't burn me.
No, but it's your experience, right?
Yeah, so what we offer instead is we've got, Stephen, our marketing guy, would give me the correct figure, but I think we've got about 20 CV templates on our website,
okay,
which are all free to use. People can go to maxwellstevens.com, hit the resources section, look at CV templates, and the information's all there. Stuff like that, I believe in giving it away free. You know, you want to help people. I think CV writers charge £200-300. Yeah. I think you could probably
sometimes
spend that money
even more if you're doing like a whole package of LinkedIn overhaul or something, you know?
Yeah. We, for example, get paid by a client once we've found them a person. We don't charge an individual person looking for a job. And I think maybe where I came to that point from is because of that. You know, I'm ingrained in a world where I've spent my life helping people for 24 years. And I wouldn't want to charge the individual. Companies can afford it, you know, they need a person, they go out there and they pay someone like me to find the person. Yeah. Everything else from the experience point of view is free. Free to use.
And you touched on something to me which is super important. Some people are in desperate positions looking for jobs. They want to work because 100%. They need a source of income. And no hate and no shade to the CV coaches and the professional resume writers, but getting all this hundreds of, and sometimes thousands, right? I think I saw an ad and this lady was charging, I think it was about £2,600 just for a 45-minute session and like equipping you with the tools you need to get that job. And it's just like, okay, what happens if you don't secure the job afterwards? Or what if you get into the job and you hate it? What happens? So it's interesting that you're saying that, yeah.
What if you're out of work to start with?
This is true.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think if we all helped each other a bit more, and I know you're on the same page, Hamza.
Yes.
You know, if we all do our bit, then it'll make the world a lot smoother.
Yeah, definitely. So slightly moving to talking about searching for jobs and navigating job search. Some companies value longevity in a role while others prioritize diverse experiences. How long, in your opinion, should one stay in a particular position, and how does longevity in one role affect future career prospects?
I think the last few years have thrown the norm into a different place. I think there's not one rule for any of us anymore. You could argue that if you stayed long at a company, are you going to be ingrained? Are you going to keep up with technology? And then if you move, I've met some cracking people that move quite quickly and they're quite strategic and they do it quite cleverly. Yeah. And because they've gained all this extra experience, you know, you could argue that they're more valuable because they've got the answers, they've seen it, they've seen different buildings, different shapes, different sizes, different teams, different bosses. There is an argument to say if you're moving and you've moved quite quickly, there's a reason for that. Yeah. So that bit needs to be investigated and, you know, it needs to be quantified by references, to be fair.
Of course.
Because if you've got evidence of that they haven't been sacked, they didn't do anything bad, then, you know, you've got that safety net to provide to the new employer, should we say.
Of course.
It's less of an issue now, I believe, than it was previously. I think years ago, people probably looked at people who moved quickly and were more attracted to people who'd stayed within an opportunity. Yeah. There's so many different points to say around this subject. You know, if you're happy in your job, why would you move? You know, some people are quite happy being settled and they know what they're going to do day in, day out. And, you know, that's their world and great. I think we'd all like to find that place.
And that leads me on perfectly to my next question, which is you don't really know a company until you get through those doors. Now, what
Yeah.
would your advice be for someone who finds themselves in a job or position that they absolutely, for lack of a better word, hates? Should they stay and stick it out, or should they start looking for other options, no matter how long they may have been in that position?
Yeah, I personally believe people shouldn't. If you've got bills to pay and you've got family, we're all in different circumstances.
Of
I
course.
personally believe you shouldn't leave a job until you've got something else lined up. I've seen a few instances over the last few years where people have done it and then the market shifts, so there's lots of things going on in the world. We recruit in a place where we're dealing with we fix one-off problems basically. So we deal with clients we might not necessarily deal with again. We'll recruit them a person. Those type of jobs go up and down all the time. And I as much as I try and keep abreast of the world, you can't predict what the economy is going to be like tomorrow.
Yeah.
So fair enough, you arrive in a place, you hate your job, try and stick with it until you find another role. I mean, the process of looking for another role may take your focus away from the problems you're experiencing in the actual job.
Yeah.
You could do it differently. You might not necessarily have to leave. You could speak to HR and see whether you could be moved to a different department, different desk, under a different manager, work from home, remotely, rather than jumping ship quickly. Take a pause and have a really good think about it.
Of course. So in terms of instances where companies have rejected individuals for being too old or being too young, how can job seekers navigate ageism in the hiring process?
I have placed people throughout my career who are 19. I placed people, and this is a true statement, who are in their 70s into permanent work. So personally, clearly, it's not an issue to me. We're all eventually going to be all of those categories, aren't we? As we go through our career. So I think if you're in the more mature group, I think it's important to keep up with technology and perhaps have evidence to think to yourself what the problem might be, and then have evidence or examples to fight against that point. If that makes sense. So, sorry to go off industry, but my dad is a professor of Egyptology, believe it or not. And he's in his 70s, and he's written books, and he broadcasts using a variety, it's not as sophisticated as Riverside, but he uses a variety of online tools to broadcast to 200 people globally. So I think relating it back, if you can keep up with AI, for example, and if you can keep up with simple online tasks, then I think you can fight against the ageism argument.
And staying on job applications a little bit longer, what are your top tips for job searching and staying motivated during that process? We all know how daunting it is, and that doom scrolling on LinkedIn jobs page or CV library or wherever it may be. Do you have any tips for people who are kind of falling into that trap where they're looking for a new role, they're feeling discouraged, and they're stuck looking at those job roles on LinkedIn and it says over 100 applicants? Do you have any advice?
So instead of calling Ghostbusters, call Maxwell Stevens.
Love it.
I can't determine how a recruiter or the person looking after that job is going to behave. I've seen some horrendous habits of other recruiters throughout my career, and the whole idea of some people don't go back to people, some people don't respond to applications, some people just let them all build up. We're humans and we've all got sort of different habits. However, go and speak to a recruiter like me, if not me. I'm more than happy to have a video chat with anyone and see if we can come up with some help or advice. I might not be the person to actually get you a job, but I could give you the skills to be able to go and do it, if that makes sense.
Hey there, it's Hamza. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. For more info, check out our website at tmmpodcast.com. Now, back to the episode. So, recruitment agencies sometimes get a negative reputation for recruiter ghosting or overselling or under-delivering. In your experience, are these criticisms justified? And how can agencies work to change their perceptions and build trust with job seekers and employers?
I'm not going to name any names of previous employers. However, when I was first sat down on day one, for a 4-year period, it's one of the reasons to set up my own recruitment company. I was sat down and probably aggressively shouted at to make 10 phone calls per day to new clients, 3 interviews per day, send out X, Y, and Z of CVs to prospective clients. And the world we're living in can't confirm whether that process Still happens. I suspect it does within
in some shape or form.
Some firms, yeah. But I think it's just not relevant anymore. I think it's, to be perfectly frank with you, being candid, I think it's boring. I don't think anyone's interested in that.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. There's a reason Maxwell Stevens don't recruit recruiters. So I've trained every single person within our business from scratch.
Okay.
Obviously, I give them the recruitment skills to do the job.
Of course.
But previous experience, recruitment consultants come in, quite aggressive sales tactics, quite sort of forceful, trying to put a square peg into a round hole, and I don't think it's relevant. It's about finding the right person for the right job. Let's just simplify the world, be nice to people, treat everyone the same. I honestly don't care if my staff make X amount of phone calls a day or don't. If they get the job done, it's all about the results. Clearly we're in the business of getting people jobs, so we still need to manage that KPI in it.
Yeah.
We still hit our targets. I don't think you need to follow the whole sort of tactic.
Reading into what you're saying, job seekers can look for agencies that seem to be taking their time with paying attention to their needs and not looking at them as a number or as a quota, or I've dealt with this person today, I need to move on to the next individual.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a target orientated situation. It should be someone arrives on day dot, let's give them, like walking into a 5-star hotel. You're treated amazingly well. Even if you don't get them a role, you go back to them, great communication, any help and advice, brilliant. It's like anything, isn't it? It's like the brand of shirt that you buy, or t-shirt, or watch, or car, or where you want to go on holiday, or which insurance broker you're going to deal with, or solicitor, or brand of paper, just looking around the office, the chair that you want to buy. You know, hopefully in all those decisions, you've made a bit of research, you've thought about it, you've perhaps talked to a few of the people. 75% of our business comes from recommendations. That says anything. You know, I don't have to pick up the phone anymore. I'm not gonna. That's not a secret. I just believe do an amazing job, and people will talk about it. Look at how Rolex, for example, have built their brand. They've got this perception of brilliance. There's a reason for that.
Very true. So would you still say that recruitment is a viable career option for those interested in helping others achieve their career goals? And what are some of those key skills and attitudes that you mentioned that you would expect to see for someone to succeed in this field?
It's not all plain sailing. I could describe a recruitment consultant, if you're successful, as paid exceptionally well, but you're paid exceptionally well to have people say no a lot, even candidates, clients, and it's I describe to the staff about the job being a roller coaster, and I draw a line in the middle of the paper. I do it to everyone, line across the middle of the paper, and then a line that goes like that. And when you have a low moment and when you have a high moment, don't get too upset, don't get too happy, just try and stay calm across the middle. I think if you have the tenacity and willpower to operate like that and to understand that from day one, it's brilliant. I mean, I still love my job. And to be able to say that after 25 years of doing it, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy about it.
What would you say is, for you, the most rewarding part of your job?
For an individual I've placed in a job to still be there after 20 years.
Wow.
And I'm starting to see it.
And when you say that job, do you mean the company, the industry, the role? Yeah,
people are different, as we talked about earlier. Some of them stick and some of them don't. There's a select group of people that we've actually managed to get. I think the most is about 6 at the moment. So we've managed to get some individuals 6 jobs throughout their career. So that one, and then 3 years later. So we would never approach them about a different job. It's only if they've obviously had a great experience, they come back to us and say, I've outgrown this one, ready for the next one, ready for the next one, you know, and it happens over a course of career. And then, believe it or not, there's a select few people who we placed in a company and are still there 20 years later. That's the bit. So you've got the two groups. You've got the ones that we've helped 6 or 7 times, different jobs, and then you've got the ones that have stuck. That's what I get, because obviously we've done something well, haven't we? Or we had an instance recently where we've been reapproached by someone. We got this guy, into a certain part of the industry. About 3 or 4 years later, he moved to a different company, but in the same sector, if that makes sense. So you could argue, because we got him into it in the first place, he's then gone to a very similar company. He wouldn't be there in this new company without us getting him there in the first place. So he's come back to us actually this week to recruit, in his new company, recruit some new team members. Still remembers the experience he had, still very positive, and obviously we're going to help him, but in a different situation this time around.
And just hearing you say that, you hear a lot about companies having their own talent resourcing teams. What are your thoughts on that, and how can companies partner with agencies to bring in and retain the best talent?
I used to have a bit of an issue with it, if I'm honest with you, in the sense that you could look at it from my perspective as they're in competition. However, accept where we are in the world and understand the point that they've got these internal people to recruit these jobs to save some money. It makes perfect sense. And I think if I ran one of these big businesses, I would do the same. Where we come in quite often is when they try, because facilities management is so specialist, we often come in once they've tried once. So they'll put an advert out there, they'll go through a process, and it happens to all of us in life, if I'm honest with you. The candidate at the last minute decides it's not for them, or you don't get a high enough quality of candidates through the process for whatever reason. People might have been on holiday, or the person gets an offer elsewhere and leaves, doesn't want the job. A variety of reasons mean that process doesn't happen. They'll have spent probably 4 weeks to get to that point. So it then gets to the point of them being in a very time-critical situation in the business, needing someone quickly. Don't ring Ghostbusters, ring Maxwell Stevens.
I've been in a few companies where I've seen that the recruitment isn't as easy, especially with someone who manages teams. When I go into a new contract that has been mobilized, or a contract that needs some transformation, I find that recruitment is one of the hardest things to push through. What is your advice for companies and people like me who are looking to partner with agencies? What are some of the benefits that you can say, this is what you would get with using an agency first time, rather than trying to go into the job markets and fight for those exact same candidates that are being fought for elsewhere?
So you need to recruit someone, but you're busy in your day job. Recruitment it's a full-time job. I get up early in the morning, I'm still recruiting late at night. You, as the client, can't possibly fit in both. Yes, you may have an internal talent team, but they won't spend 12 hours a day recruiting facilities management. There's some quite technical intricacies about the industry that said recruiters, they're probably doing an amazing job. They might spend their life recruiting finance or HR and then have a facilities job to. What we can offer, or what our competitors can offer, is experience of doing it day in, day out. We've got also the resources there now. I'm a bit of a control freak in terms of what I do. I'm not afraid to say that. Don't think wrongly or badly about
Same
me.
here.
But
I completely understand.
I've been responsible via a team of administrators. I'm not going to tell you I've done it all myself. Of putting 50,000 people, all in FM, onto our books.
Right.
So we've got that instantaneous talent. We've got some amazingly sophisticated IT infrastructures. Let's say we're recruiting this job, this salary range, this location. So we get the 50,000 people, boom, down to 200-300 that are relevant for the job. Then we can contact them. Also, on top of which, we're meeting people ahead of time. That's one positive thing that came out after COVID. So in the last 4.5 years, I think it's been that long, we've interviewed 15,000 people.
Oh my.
So the job comes in, we're ready. We've met half the people for that shortlist. All we need to do is contact them, send them the details, meet them again if we have to, but we've been through the interview process with them. Obviously meet the new people, get a lot of recommendations. Our website is the #1 on Google, so if you type in facilities management recruitment, you're going to get to us first. We've got some ninjas internally, there really are. They move fast, they're quick, they're clever, they're bright, they communicate well. It's a no-brainer to me.
there seems to be a trend where in the UK a lot of jobs aren't posted with the salary ranges. What is your thoughts on this trend, and do you see it ever changing in the future?
I'm not a big fan, because it's like walking into the dark, isn't it? Or walking around without glasses on, or being blinded, but you haven't got all the information. We talked earlier about being prepared and making decisions based on all the facts, and in that one instance it's very, very difficult. I get it from the employer's point of view. There are reasons why they do it. So you've got these big corporate entities generally, and the structures internally between different people doing the same job, they may be on different salaries, and they can't then go out for a higher salary because this person down here already works for them, who's been a loyal person, is going to get alarmed, and then they have to turn around and rejig it. It's just a headache that they don't want to have to deal with. So there are reasons why, and also they don't want to advertise it sometimes because of their competitors, and it is sharing a lot of information to put a salary out there. It's not a perfect world. I'm not a big fan. Quite often, those organisations do come to companies like us, and we therefore are actually, as long as we don't use their brand, we are actually allowed to advertise the salaries. So when you look at recruiters' adverts, they'll have the salaries on there.
Oh,
that makes it a bit easier.
That's really interesting to know, because I have noticed that a lot of recruitment agencies will have the salary advertised, even when you can almost tell that, okay, maybe this job could be from a different company. Yeah, thanks for telling us that. So I always say hindsight is 2020. And what would you wish to have known or have done differently at the start of your professional career?
Not to maybe mix work and pleasure as much as or work and home life as much as I probably did. It was just wake up in the morning, all-consuming world of recruitment, let's say. Going to bed at night, wake up in the morning, doing the same. Friends that were work colleagues, but also social friends, all in. And what I've learned later in my life is to have that, whatever time of the day you finish at 5:30, switch off, leave the office, close your laptop, go home, and you've got a separate world. I think the kids probably helped with that, and my wife.
What are some of the tips and tricks and tools that you've used to help in that separation? Because work-life balance and trying to find that balance is something that a lot of people have struggled with. Is there anything that you have done in the last few years that has particularly worked really well?
The advantage of working for yourself, and when I say I work for myself, my wife is a 50% shareholder of the business, so she's obviously heavily involved. We don't work in the same office. She looks after our finances and keeps me out of trouble and keeps me from making bad decisions, which has worked perfectly. I've done a few things actually, and this has worked really well. So I'm not actually physically in the office in the morning till 10 o'clock anymore. On a Monday, I drop the kids at school, which I love. Seeing their little faces, go to the school gate, and having a little chat in the car journey is brilliant. And then I go to the gym sort of 4 days a week, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then come back from the gym and have that hour. So I'm still doing work that I would have done in the office, but it's that sort of thinking time in a different space where you can be a bit more strategic, you can set your day up, have your coffee on your own, have a walk around the garden, go to the gym. And I don't actually go to the gym from a physical, this might sound weird, from a physical point of view, I go from a mental point of view. Really helps with the mind. I also spent 20 years of my working career looking out the window on a Friday afternoon, looking at my watch thinking, right, when can we go home? If it gets to a Friday, it's a bit quieter anyway. Anyway, I finish work on a Friday at 12 o'clock now, so I have an extra half day off, and I feel great as a human. I can go off and do something with my wife, or often go and watch my daughter smash her netball. She's pretty good at that, which is quite nice.
Oh, that's really good. You actually touched on something that I wanted to talk about and dive a bit deeper into. So you said it's really nice to have that extra hour of thinking time. I think right now it's so underestimated how much time we need to just sit down and think through things. The world has become so reactive, especially with this instant culture of being able to get everything on demand, being able to deliver on demand. There's almost that pressure for people to always deliver immediately, but they forget that to actually put out my best work, I need some time to think. I need to develop a concept, an idea, figure out how to tackle that argument or that problem.
100%. It got to the point Because I love the team of people around me, but I'm obviously the boss and the one who's often got the ideas. And it got to the point of, I suppose, suffocation, if I'm honest with you. Just not being able to do certain tasks, not being able to do the strategic things, the things that are ever so important. I mean, they say, obviously, write down your key things and do those first. I think that's ever so important. But to just stop, and it got to the point where I had to physically not be here to block it out. So I'm literally not disturbed in that period. As a person, I feel fantastic because of it. Because then when I arrive, I've done those, or have at least set up those important tasks. You've got that thinking, you've got that freedom to implement, and a lot more productive than it used to be because of which.
It absolutely does. So is there anything that you would like to plug?
No affiliation with Ghostbusters, but obviously Maxwell Stevens. No, we've got some really good clients and candidates and jobs. Really good team. You know, the offer stands. If there's anyone watching this that wants help or advice, I'm the guy to see what I can do.
No, I really appreciate you offering that, and I will put all the links in the description so people can help themselves to the CV resources that you talked about and the agency as well. So, Peter, is there any advice that you would offer the modern man?
Don't hesitate. Learn as much as you can about what you decide to do. Try your best. You can't beat yourself up about not being successful. Thomas Edison tried 800 times to build the light bulb, and he just kept. Imagine what that must have been like hundreds of years ago when he did it. Be nice to people, give to charity, look after your friends and family, bring people up, and generally be the guy.
I love that. Genuinely be the guy. Oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
Peter, I have had the absolute best time. I feel like this episode has been, it feels like a condensed, I don't even know what to call it. Like a high calorie meal. Yeah.
Like a protein bar.
Exactly, that's what it feels like. In creating this podcast series, one of the things that kept crossing my mind is that there are a lot of people who are looking for jobs. There are a lot of people who are concerned about how they go about getting new jobs, how they go about approaching agencies. And I thought it'd be really great to talk to someone who I know has been in this industry for a long time, is genuinely such a nice person. And all the conversations we've had leading up to this, you've always left me with something. So it was, for me, a no-brainer that you would be on here to share your expertise with the rest of the Modern Man community.
Thanks for the opportunity. Good luck with the rest of the interviews, and I hope you get what you want from it. It's like you're like walking into a five-star hotel.
Thank you. That's really kind. I don't think I've ever had that kind of compliment before, but thank you. Thanks. And that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Modern Man Podcast, Conversations on the Human Experience. I hope you've had an amazing time with this calorie-dense protein bar of an episode. And please feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe. Until next time, take care.